And hello. Okay, looks like it's picking up my audio. Hello. God damn it. Keep instinctively doing my left hand. So anyway, hello there, people. Yes, thank you for tuning in again. Let's get this started. There's quite a bit to talk about. First things first, why was I not here yesterday? I was tired as fuck yesterday, and I also have been sick for the past few days. I did not go to school yesterday, nor did I go to school today. 'Cause I was sick. I did not feel good. I woke up with the worst headache. It was generally just not pleasant. I took medication. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Quick update on the bills. HR 669 and S200. They are still in the Foreign Relations Committee. I have yet to figure out how the hell they're going to, figure out when there's a hearing on this. I gotta look that up, and I probably have not put in nearly as much effort as I should into figuring that out. Please, if you support it, sign the petition in the description. It should be at the very end of the description. If you support the bills, and probably more important than signing the petition, call your congressmen, congresswomen, senators, representatives, whatever you want to call them. The calling will probably do much more than the petition. Okay, so, on to the news. So, in terms of LGBT rights, there was something quite big. Trump rescinded the Obama guidance on the LGBT rules. On transsexuals. Sorry, I am not thinking. I'm super tired right now. Like, it's 7 p.m. I should not be tired because I spent most of the day sleeping, but I am super tired. Anyway, so Trump suspended the guidance that says that schools should let transsexual students use the bathroom of the gender that they identify with, rather than the bathroom of the gender that they physically are. Now, there are a number of... I mean, I can understand why some parents would not be comfortable with that, but... At the same time, when we're talking about trans people, I'm willing to bet that you've probably seen a few trans people on the street and don't even realize it because they look like they are the gender that they identify with. I don't know anyone off the top of my head that is trans, but I've probably seen a few in the street and just haven't realized that they're actually not of the gender that they're dressing. Honestly, it's yeah. For college students, being tired is like something encoded into DNA. Cyber, you're right about that. Anyway, those trans students, I can understand why parents would be uncomfortable with it, but at the same time, I it's like you're not gonna be able to tell if someone's trans or actually of said gender, or at least someone who's really trans will be like that. Someone who's really trans and has always felt like that. You look at them and you won't be able to tell that, like, oh, they look like a man but they're actually a woman, or they look like a woman but they're actually a man. If someone's really trans, they've always been like that and you won't be able to tell. They've always felt it, and you won't be able to tell, like, just simply by the way they dress and act, that they are of whatever gender. Also, in states like North Carolina, where, they have that law that says you must use the bathroom of the one of the gender you are assigned at birth, and I say assigned because they use birth certificates. Interesting question. I have a number of questions for that. Question number one: what if you are born intersex? Which, if you don't know that that's a thing, you need to get out more. Cause yeah, gender is not this binary black and white thing that some people think it is. Some people are born with both parts. Or genetically, you look at them and they're like XXY or XYY or whatever. These people exist. What do you do with them? And two, what if you don't have a birth certificate? Okay, so number one done. Uh, some people don't have birth certificates, believe it or not, and no, they're not always undocumented immigrants or anything like that. No, I don't have a birth certificate, but I'm a citizen. Why don't I have a birth certificate? Because I was born in Japan. And in Japan, they don't have birth certificates. No, seriously, in Japan, they don't give out birth certificates. They instead, when you're born, they add you to your family registry or koseki. So I don't got no birth certificate. I'm assuming they'll say, oh, then it has to be the gender on whatever identification you have, proving that you were born or something like that. I'm assuming that's the way the law works. I haven't looked at the way the law is actually worded, so I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, that happened a few days ago. I don't think it was yesterday that it happened. I think it was the day before, and I just didn't catch it until after the stream. Yeah. Okay. I'm putting off a few things because there's one big story. In terms of nuclear weapons, big. In terms of news, it's not big because it's about nuclear weapons. And in case you haven't noticed, the nuclear movement has kind of died down since the end of the Cold War. So, marijuana. Yes, that's the next thing I'm going to talk about. Yes, let's go from LGBT rights to marijuana, but it does still have to do with things that liberal people and people who lean liberal would consider important. So the White House spokesperson someone from the White House has basically told the press that they expect to be enforcing federal laws against marijuana more often now. Which that's interesting to me, considering we have a president that is Republican, and Republicans like to go off about how they are pro states' rights, but when it comes to marijuana, no, it should be illegal. Unless you're someone like Rand Paul or Ron Paul. Those people tend to value. Those people they lean libertarian, so it shouldn't be too surprising that they would rather the states decide. There are other things that I disagree with them. Smoke weed every day. Yeah, no. But I wonder how this will play out if the federal government does try to do it for states like, say, Washington or Oregon, where recreational marijuana is legal. I don't know how it's going to play out, but the way I see it, there's probably a conflict looming. At the same time, Attorney General Jeff Sessions signals support for private prisons, rescinds memo meant to phase out their use. Coincidence? You think not, Raskris? I don't know if it's a coincidence, although I will not be surprised either way. Could be a coincidence, might not be a coincidence. I don't know. I would not be surprised either way, to be honest, with the way private prisons are so baked into the system. They don't really... People like to claim they save money when they, as far as I can tell anyway, all the documentation and statistics I've seen on it, they don't. They don't save money. They're not more expensive, but they don't save money. Petty drug laws are what give private prisons their money. Yeah, in some ways, that's true. America's prison, the amount of people we put in prison is like among the highest in the world, which is amazing, and it's mostly because of the drug laws. Although I will point out that most of those people are not in there for marijuana. Most of the time it's for other drugs. That doesn't really make it any better, but like changing marijuana laws won't fix the prison issues. it's usually a lot of other. It has to do with other drugs, and yeah, they're most of the time it's non-violent offenses that are really, really minor. But you know, there was a few decades ago, there was that whole tough on drugs, tough on crime stuff. Okay, number two. And then we ended up in the situation that we are. The way I see it, I think we should. I think Portugal got it right. You're probably wondering what the hell I'm talking about. Portugal decriminalized all drugs. And for some people are probably freaking out at the suggestion that, oh, you should decriminalize all drugs? What? No. Instead of treating drug addiction as, you know, a crime and possession as a crime and all that, they decided to treat drug addiction as, you know, a disease that needs to be treated, and the people who are addicts as people not people who deserve to go to prison, but people who need help. And the drug use in Portugal has kind of gone on a decline since then. It's really interesting. America doesn't take that approach. Now, I'm not saying that we should decriminalize all drugs. No. At the very least, illegal distribution should, you know, distribution of things like cocaine should still remain illegal. But simple possession and addiction, I don't think so. Possession is what throws people in prison most of the time. And honestly, if you're addicted, you need help, not prison time. Not that that's going to change with the current Congress. I mean, even if it's Democrats, I find it very hard to believe that even if Democrats had control of Congress, that it will change. Because that's what that's what Democrats had about 7 years ago around, and it didn't change, so yeah. U.S. drug policy needs a revamp. Ooh. Should I talk about this now? You know what? I will. So, Trump made some statements on nuclear weapons, which, if you just listen to it without analyzing it, will make him sound like he's against nuclear weapons. When, in reality, the way he's saying it, he's not against the use of nuclear weapons. I mean, aside from that one last week, Thursday, I think, or was it the week before? It was a Thursday in one of the, either last week or the previous week, where he said where he finally admitted that nuclear holocaust is bad. But no, this is not related to that. In a different conference, he came out and said that the reason why a lot of people might look at what he said and think, oh, he's against nuclear weapons, is because he started off by saying that he is the first president who wants all countries to get rid of nuclear weapons, which, you know what? Not surprising. Hold on one moment. This Shane is on here talking about the drug thing that was going on a little bit. All for flooding the market with cheap drugs of all kinds. Let idiots that want to poison themselves do it. Once they OD, then you no longer have. Whew. That's kind of harsh. Although again, the way I see it, instead of pouring money into keeping people in prison for drug offenses, if we pour money into, you know, rehabilitation programs for the people who want help and want to get off. Yeah. White House spokesperson said you shouldn't. Razgrid says also a White House spokesperson said you shouldn't have a job in the White House if you don't agree with the president's agenda. I mean, I can see why people would be disturbed by that comment, but at the same time, I'm not surprised that a president would want people who agree with them to be in the White House. That's one of those things I have mixed feelings about. I can see why a lot of people would be disturbed by it, but I can't say I'm all that surprised by, the fact that any president would say that, to be honest. Anyway, back to what I was talking about. Trump said, Trump finally, he said he's the first president to want all countries to get rid of their nuclear weapons. But he followed that statement by saying that, but if other countries are going to have nuclear weapons, America should reign supreme. That's not his exact words, but that's pretty close. A pretty close summary. Let's see. The actual quote was somewhere in this article that I have open. Here we go. I am the first one that would like to see nobody have nukes, but we're never going to fall behind any country, even if it's a friendly country. We're never going to fall behind on nuclear power. If countries are going to have nukes, we're going to be at the top of the pack. Now that, at first glance, it might sound like he's if you just look at the first part of the statement, it might sound like he's against nuclear weapons. But he's in effect saying that if America America will not get rid of its nuclear weapons unless every other country on the planet gets rid of its nuclear weapons. And as long as any other country has nuclear weapons, America should have, the whatever they consider the best. Now that... Oh my... Where do I start with my feelings on that quote? It's attitudes like that when people take those attitudes. And Trump is not the first person to take that attitude. A lot of people in many countries that have nuclear weapons, not just America, have taken that attitude. And I don't think it's going to, in terms of the people who want to see nuclear disarmament happen, as long as people take those attitudes, people in governments take those attitudes, I don't think it's going to happen. Because in effect, that's basically saying that basically means as long as any country on the planet has nuclear weapons, you're not getting rid of theirs. I can understand why people would say that. I really can understand why people would say that, but at the same time, if the goal of nuclear disarmament is to be achieved, everyone is going to have to commit to reducing the nuclear arsenal of every country. Unless someone starts, it's not going to happen. Hold on one moment. Oh my. It all goes back to mad. Oh yes, mutually assured destruction. I can see the logic behind it, but I'm not a big fan of the idea. The idea that, if you have enough nukes, then any war will result in the absolute destruction of both sides, thus war will not happen. I don't like that. All it takes is one mistake, and then the world will end. As a matter of fact, we've come very close to killing ourselves because of that. During the Cold War, there was a malfunction in the U.S. nuclear radar systems, and it mistakenly showed that the Russians had suddenly launched thousands of nukes, and the president was about to get a call asking, should we do a retaliatory nuclear strike? But right before that call happened, The call went into the person who was about to call him and said, sorry, false alarm, faulty computer chip. It was such a close call. And then another incident in 1995, I believe Norway launched a rocket for research, atmospheric research. Apparently, Russian radar crews didn't get the memo and thought it was... Russian radar stations didn't get the memo and thought it was an American nuclear missile and nearly launched Russia's nuclear weapons. It's things like that that makes me not like the entire idea behind MAD. All it takes is one oops, and then there goes everything. Until we come up with a foolproof way of defeating incoming warheads, MAD is really the only thing that makes people sit up and pause before pressing the button. Perhaps. But at the same time, when you have so many close calls, we've had a lot of close calls. All it takes is one error, and then the whole thing could fall apart. I don't like that system. I will admit that I am biased, having been born in Hiroshima, and having gone to school in Hiroshima. I'm not exactly unbiased on this issue. I will readily admit that, but that's still what I believe. Ooh, hold on one moment. Okay, so that is my mom calling me on the phone. I cannot answer the phone right now. I am doing the stream. I will text her as soon as it gets sent to voicemail. Okay. Now I gotta tell her what I'm doing so she knows why I didn't answer. As a character on Call of Duty Modern Warfare said, all it takes is the will of a single MAD. Someone said the line. I don't know Call of Duty, so, I'm not... I'm sure someone said that. I can't help you to identify who it was, though. And I don't know if it could take the will of a single man, but at the same time it could be a faulty computer chip, or a misidentification of a rocket. To be fair though, Trump's stance is it's not the first time. I've said this before, but it's not the first time that a person has taken that stance. As a matter of fact, I think that's a similar stance is what India has on their nuclear arsenal. India has said that they are committed to getting rid of their nuclear weapons, but only after every other country on the planet has got rid of their nuclear weapons. So it's not exactly a new stance. But it's not one that I can get behind. The genie is out of the bottle, and it's going to take a lot more work to put it back. Oh yeah, you're definitely right about that. Probably doesn't help that at least in the United States in the modern era, a lot of people that were once, let's just say the anti-nuclear movement doesn't have as much momentum behind it as it once did in, the height of the, during the Cold War when all those protest movements was happening. People used to care about it, but in modern society, a lot of people, the general public has not been tuning into the issues. When you have countries like North Korea and Iran with nukes, for us to not have them will be stupid. I disagree. Although, I think that rather than investing in nuclear weapons, we should be investing in, hold on. processes to defend ourselves against them, not just more nuclear weapons, say a missile defense system. It's just an example. And as for North Korea, as for Iran, we've been trying to get them to not get nukes. Not gonna lie, I think the Obama deal was a good start. I don't think it'll be the last thing that happens. 2, 4, 5. I mean, I don't think that's like the end-all deal, and just that will stop Iran from getting nuclear weapons. No. But I think it's at least a start. We'll have to build upon it. And for example, the moment Iran gets caught breaking the deal, all the sanctions have to go back, because that's what the deal says. If Iran violates the deal, all the sanctions go back on Iran. As for North Korea, I'm not sure what we can really do about them at this point, other than hope that China starts taking a harder stance, which in some ways they have. I believe they started turning back coal shipments from North Korea. And that's one of North Korea's major sources of income. At the same time, though, China benefits from having North Korea be on the cusp of gaining nuclear, the ability to deploy nuclear weapons, but not being quite there yet. China has the most to gain from having North Korea be in the status quo, not, they actually have nuclear weapons, or, they don't have it and are not trying to get it. I'd be less worried about North Korea and Iran, though, because they kind of... Iran hasn't been confirmed to have any actual warheads yet, and North Korea probably has only about 10, and even then they don't have the ability to deploy them in any sort of military scenario. They've been trying to get that, but that's an entirely separate discussion. Woohoo, sanctions, they work so well. Yes, what do you expect? What else do you want us to do? Invade the country? It's not like going to war against the country that has nuclear weapons is the best idea. And to be fair, with the sanctions, we had with the sanctions, at least we had bargaining chips that we could use against Iran. Which is why the whole deal could happen. And yeah, China's a whole different kind of worms. But I'm less worried about North Korea, Iran, China, France, the UK, or any of the other countries, Israel, that have nuclear weapons. And I'm more worried about, America and Russia, because America and Russia combined have no more nuclear weapons than the rest of the world combined. As a matter of fact, if you don't count Russia, America has more nukes than the rest of the world combined, and same thing for Russia. If you don't count America, they have more nukes than the rest of the world combined. I think America is expected to have at least, America's believed to have about 6,800, although, again, the actual number is classified for obvious reasons. And Russia is believed to have about 7,000. Again, the actual number is classified for obvious reasons. Stealth bombers and long-range cruise missiles. Military intervention, I don't think, is gonna stop them. If anything, I think they'd push them harder to get more nukes. 6. We can argue about this if you want, but I really don't think that arguing about countries like Iran and North Korea is gonna really change the situation. To be fair, I can understand why people would be tempted to take such action to, try stop other countries from getting nuclear weapons. This is, although, nuclear non-proliferation is an issue that it's easy to say this should happen. It's much harder to actually see it happen. It's much harder to get it. It's easy to say this should be the policy. It's much harder to actually implement that policy. I don't think we can argue about it all we all want, but I think the bottom line is there is no easy solution to this. There is no easy answer to this. We can throw around sanctions or military intervention, be it invasion or long-range strikes or whatever. But at the end of the day, there's a lot to consider with this. To me, though, it's the way I see the situation is unless America takes the lead in this, I don't see the rest of the world following along. That's the way I see it. The rest of the world is trying to make a treaty that would actually ban nuclear weapons, and not something that goes further than the non-proliferation treaty. I think a lot of the non-nuclear nations are going to take part in the negotiations. I think Japan has actually voted against the UN resolution for it, though, because none of the nuclear weapons states are in it. America's not in it. Russia's not in it. Actually, name any nation that has nuclear weapons. They're probably not in it. I think China abstained, and they decided they're not going to take part in the negotiations that are going to come about because of the resolution. I think it's a good first step, but I can also understand why, say, Japan would voice concerns because America and Russia and China and name all the other countries are not part of it. And yes, Cyber, I do understand your position that violence can solve one problems, but it can also lead to new problems. It's one of the reasons why I don't think that there's really much solutions, though. Like, sanctions will... I mean, if sanctions work and actually stop Iran or North Korea or whatever... Just insert country name here, to be honest. If sanctions do work, yay, but at the same time, it does cause economic issues in the country. So, like... when you have countries like those that have them and are run by seriously loose cannons. I'm not sure about Iran being a loose cannon, but as for North Korea, oh my god. Loose cannon doesn't even begin to describe them. Kim Jong-un has been so unpredictable. And if my suspicion that he's behind the assassination of Kim Jong-nam is true, and it has not been confirmed, but I do believe that he was behind Kim Jong-nam's death. 2, 4, 6, 7. North Korea is the country I'm more worried about than I am Iran, to be honest. Because Iran, I think their leaders are competent enough to know that using nuclear weapons would be a bad idea. North Korea, on the other hand, they're scary. They are scary. I can see where you're coming from, Deshane, though. I do believe that I do understand your concerns. I will admit right now that I am an idealist. I am an idealist. I have an ideal, and that's what I want to see happen. Idealists don't always have the most realistic of plans, but hey. But I do understand the concern with countries, especially North Korea. I mean, China and Russia and France and Germany and Britain. Germany has a nuclear sharing agreement with the U.S. But yeah, France, Germany, the UK. What else is there? Israel, China, Russia, America. All those countries have leaders that I believe are competent enough to know that actually using nuclear weapons is a bad idea. No, North Korea is not one of those countries. It's sometimes the world is scary. I think the media makes it look more scary than it actually is, but sometimes the world is scary. Iran is a sneaky loose cannon. They drop a lot of BS about attacking ships in Hormuz and the rest of the Gulf, not to mention the recent propaganda contour of their navy defeating the U.S. ships. Propaganda and, posturing is different from actually using nuclear weapons. As far as I know, they don't even have nuclear weapons yet. To be honest, I'm less worried about Iran getting and then actually using nuclear weapons. And in terms of the Iran issue, I'm more worried about Iran getting nuclear weapons and then that pushing Saudi Arabia to get nuclear weapons, which then just starts an arms race in the Middle East. I think that's probably in the event that Iran gets nuclear weapons. That's probably a more likely scenario than Iran actually using them. And I don't know about the way other people see it, but arms race between Saudi Arabia and Iran is probably not going to be something that brings stability to the Middle East. The YAL 1 program. Never heard of that, Deshane. Looking it up right now. Hold on. The megawatt class chemical oxygen iodine laser mounted to a Boeing 747, primarily designed as a missile defense system to destroy tactical nuclear missiles. No, tactical ballistic missiles while in boost phase. To be completely honest, well, I usually am not in favor of military expansion. That is actually one project that I can get behind. I don't know if Japan will. I know that Japan is looking to expand its military capabilities. Even though its military is technically not a military and is technically a self-defense force. Prime Minister Abe has been trying to change that. Okay, so 2, 4, 6, 8. I have mixed feelings about Abe's planned constitutional changes. Prime Minister Abe and his push for nuclear, the constitutional changes, specifically in Article 9 of the Japanese Constitution. I mean, I can understand why people would want it. I don't know if Japan would be able to use it, but it could. It would definitely help Japan if America, the Yao 1 program was something that America actually fully developed. Now, for the record, regarding the constitutional changes that Abe wants to put in Japan, it is. It's a hard thing even for the people in Japan to swallow. And honestly, if Abe is not careful and he tries to push it through in Japan, the Japanese people. Biggest problem with the idea is you would have to keep a plane armed with the system up at all times. Yeah, that could be an issue, but it's I would say rather than investing in more nuclear weapons, it would be better to invest in missile defense programs like Yao 1. It's just one example. There are many other examples, but that's just one of many examples. There was also the Star Wars program that got cancelled because of the treaty, the Outer Space Treaty, that basically said we can't use space for military purposes. Not that it really stops people from making spy satellites and whatnot. Was really needed. Oh, yeah. Ground-based, hugely powerful missile defense system. Yeah, missile defense systems is definitely something that I would definitely be behind seeing the military invest in. Instead of offensive capabilities, the ability to defend against nuclear weapons. Honestly, if we had better capability to defend against them, I think it would be easier for people, to accept that to accept the lowering of the nuclear arsenal. Star Wars, the exact idea behind it was, I'm not sure. But, I mean, the specifics of the Star Wars program I'm not sure about. But the general idea behind it, to make a really powerful missile defense system, I can get behind. I mean, I know I'm an idealist, but at the same time, I know that if my ideal is going to have any chance of becoming a reality, we need to be able to defend against other countries' nuclear weapons as we reduce our own stockpile. It's just, I don't see it happening any other way. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Cyber, I get the references you're trying to make. But honestly, it's a super powerful missile defense system is probably the best. Developing such a thing is probably the best way to convince people who are on the fence about the whole mutually assured destruction thing. Developing such a system so that we can defend ourselves from such an attack by other countries is probably the best way. Just have to scale up what's on the USS Punch to a level that can burn through the atmosphere and reach an ICBM on its way out. It's easy to say things like that, but I think like actually putting it into, making it a reality is probably easier said than done. Like I can get behind missile defense systems, but somehow I think it's easy to say we should make more missile defense systems, but actually making more missile defense systems is an entirely separate challenge. But I think it's a challenge that should be undertaken. Besides, we've gone to the moon. What? If we throw enough brain power and money behind it, I don't think it's impossible. It's something that can probably be done. Even if it's easier said than done, I think we should actually go and try. I know America tried to do it, and then, that was Star Wars got cancelled. I think YAL 1 also got cancelled, or at least that's what Wikipedia says. And, it's Wikipedia, so take it with a grain of salt, but even if it's easier said than done, I think it's a challenge we should take on. Besides, I think America's up for the challenge. We have a lot of scientists. We have a lot of money. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised that other countries... I mean, America has the THAAD system that we're going to... Or at least we're looking to deploy in South Korea. China's throwing a major fit about it, but... Honestly, as long as North Korea is a loose cannon, I think we should deploy that missile defense system in South Korea. Okay, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I'll keep going, because why not? We've made missile defense systems before. Making something that is a lot on a bigger scale and is a lot more accurate and capable is a challenge. But let's do it. I mean, as long as Russia has 7,000 nukes. I mean, 7,000 is a lot. And then there's the whole loose cannon in North Korea. If Mao hadn't been such a dick back in the 50s, we wouldn't have this issue. Ah, yes. Oh, Mao is a mixed bag. well, not mixed as in he did some good things, he did some bad things. I mean, Mao was no doubt a totalitarian dictator that has no respect for me. He was a military man that knew how to fight that knew how to fight a guerrilla war. But when it comes to running a country now, and then in the 50s, whoo. Okay. I'm not exactly an expert on Chinese history, but if I remember correctly, the way Mao ran his country once he actually was able to unite it. Well, unite with the exception of Taiwan and Hong Kong and Macau. China Uncensored has a lot of bad things to say about Mao. I'm not exactly sure why. I'm not an expert on the Chinese nuclear program. All I know is that they have nuclear weapons, and I'm not a big fan of that. I'm not a big fan of any country having nuclear weapons, to be fair. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. What if it's possible for Taiwan to take over the Chinese? I wish that would happen. Honestly. Uh, I have a way more positive view of Taiwan than I do of mainland China. And it's mostly because of the government. Chinese people are pretty good people. But the Chinese government. Oh, wow. Even now, the Chinese government is kind of, yeah. Doesn't help that there's a power struggle going on between the Jiang Zemin faction and the Hu Jintao, I think, faction. Between one guy who once was pretty powerful in China and the guy who currently is the president of China. But yeah, China is a whole other can of worms. Between their politics that is super complicated. You would think that, oh, it's ruled by the Chinese Communist Party with the iron fist. It can't be that complicated. No, the internal power struggle dynamics is really complicated. Taiwan is based on the you're spelling stuff. Kuomintang and helped in World War II. Yeah, the Soviets helped the Chinese communists in World War II. America helped Taiwan, although the Soviets actually also somewhat helped out the nationalists at the very beginning, I think, and then they threw their support behind Mao eventually. Mao never had that good of a relationship with Stalin, though. China. What's interesting is right now Taiwan is ruled by the Democratic Progressive Party, the DPP, which actually seeks to see Taiwan gain full independence from China. And I don't mean like I don't mean like Taiwan claims it's the legitimate government of China. No, that would mean changing the Constitution of Taiwan and having Taiwan declare itself as its own island country. That's gonna piss off China. So 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. To be fair, China's always overreacted when it comes to Taiwan. It's part of the reason I was willing to when Trump took that call from the president of Taiwan. I mean, I didn't see that as a big deal. I mean, the whole one China policy thing I saw as a big deal, but just taking a call from the president of Taiwan, that's China was overreacting. That one China was overreacting. That won't happen, yeah. Taiwan declaring independence is something that it's unlikely. The Democratic Progressive Party has it as one of their goals, but as long as China is the way it is, unlikely. I mean, considering that China literally has missiles pointed at Taiwan at all times, I think everyone knows what the implications behind those missiles are. I think a few years ago, last year or something like that, there is only one China. Taiwan is not China. Not if you ask the government of Taiwan. Both governments agree that Taiwan is part of China. They just disagree as to which government is China. So wait, the one China policy is fine as long as you refer to Taiwan as that and not the Republic of China. Actually, China does get pissed off if you refer to Taiwan as Taiwan. They prefer the term Chinese Taipei, which is what Taiwan goes to. Like everything from the Olympics to FIFA, they go under the name Chinese Taipei, not Taiwan. And as a matter of fact, I think there was like a mock United Nations thing going a little bit ago. This is something that I read a long time ago, like sometime last year, So my memory could be failing me, but if I remember correctly, there was a mock United Nations thing, and some Taiwanese students wanted their country to be Taiwan. And the people who ran it decided, yeah, that's okay. We're going to let them use the term Taiwan. And then the Chinese students who were representing China got really angry because it's using Taiwan and not Chinese Taipei. Chinese Taipei, really confusing. If you want independence, why call yourself Republic of China and then compare it to the People's Republic of China? Because the Kuomintang, the Nationalist Party of China, doesn't want independence. They want reunification with China, but they want it to happen under their government. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. And for the longest time, it was the Nationalist Party that was in control of Taiwan. I think it was very recently that Taiwan actually became a full-fledged democracy. For a while there, the Nationalist Party ruled pretty authoritarian. No, I think that's changed since the death of Chiang Kai-shek, and Taiwan is widely considered to be a democracy now. But when Chiang Kai-shek was still alive, that was not the case. Kind of like South Korea, which for a while there, as much as it tried to be a democracy, it was a dictatorship for a while. That isn't going to happen. Yeah. I believe, Deshane, you are talking about the Nationalist Party wanting to gain control of mainland China again. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Take what you can get now and work on the rest later. Yeah, I think that's why the Nationalist Party, rather than trying to take back mainland China, has been trying to work on other issues like the economy, for example, or strengthening their military so that they can defend against mainland China should mainland China ever decide that they don't want peace anymore. Okay. I've noticed that the delay between the YouTube chat and the what I say is quite substantial this time. So I'm waiting a bit. 2, 4, 6, 8, 12, 4. Wait, 2, 4, 6, 8, 12, 14. Okay, did I miscount and accidentally make 16? Oops. 2, 4. I meant to make 15. 6, 8, 2, 4, 6. Okay, I was just counting wrong. Damn it. It's not the first time I've done that. So I'm going to call it a day after this. It's always interesting to see. For those of you who are unfamiliar, I do believe Deshane is a moderate Republican, and I welcome other views on this stream, especially on, actually on any issue. If anyone was paying attention to the stream, you could say you saw his arguments for or against nuclear weapons, and this is the kind of debate that we need. Just respectful exchange of ideas. See if we can find common ground, and I believe we did end up finding common ground on the issue of, should we build new missile defense systems? We need more of that in American politics. It's a sad thing that seems to have gone away on both sides, actually. What with Clinton during the debates, the Democratic primary debates, saying Republicans were her enemy. Ugh. That was probably the worst answer she could have given. Oh, okay, Cyber. By the time you get back, I might be done. Cause this last crane is almost done, and I'm gonna stop at 15. Bacon is calling for you. Ah, yes. The deliciousness of bacon. If only it weren't so unhealthy, I would eat it all the time. Actually, given the choice, I would probably eat it all the time anyway. But bacon is kind of expensive where I live, so... Okay, so... 2, 4, 6, 7... 2, 4, 6, 8, so that's 15! Okay! So, with that, I am going to call this a day. I hope to see you guys again tomorrow, or in one of the other streams that I do in the future. I welcome all views on this channel. and this stream actually. So thank you for watching, especially if you those of you who had an alternate view to give and did so respectfully. Thank you very much for doing that. And I hope to see you guys again if you support the bills that I mentioned in the beginning. For those of you who are not familiar, the specific bills would make it so that would basically formalize a no first use policy. Independent moderate. Independent moderate. I don't know. From my perspective, you lean towards the political right of the to me, you seem like you lean towards the political right. You can still be independent. I'm not gonna lie. You can still lean towards the political right and be independent. Independent just means you're not affiliated with either party. But in any case, I do welcome those other views on this channel. Be it Republican, Libertarian, Independent, Moderate, blah, whatever. You're all welcome here. So thank you all for watching. I hope to see you again in one of the future streams. I will try my best to do it tomorrow. I didn't do one yesterday because I just fell asleep and was out the whole day. So yeah, thank you for watching. If you support the bills that I mentioned, HR 669 and S200, again, that basically formalizes a no first use policy with only 2 exceptions. The first exception being in the event that Congress declares war. If Congress declares war, then yeah, the president, if they felt so, could still give the order to use nuclear weapons. And 2, if another country uses nuclear weapons on us first, then yes, so say Russia launches a nuclear missile, then the president would be able to launch a retaliatory strike without a declaration of war. Because, you know, if you have a missile kind of coming at us, it's kind of hard to push through some of those bills without, you know, such considerations. There's a petition that I've said so before on the stream. I am not sure how I feel about the exact wording. It seems to be focused solely on Trump. Although to me, I like the bill because it would apply to all presidents, Democrat and Republican. So yeah, it's in the description, and probably more important than the actual signing of the petition is calling your senators and representatives in Congress. And okay, so please go ahead and do that if you support the bill. If you don't have to. And I will see you again tomorrow. Bye!